but they have had good performances. And I think they've actually won on their Caitlyn Lux before, but here we are getting onto the Rift, and I'm curious if there will be any stuff happening at level 1. A lot of the time with these kind of ranged supports, you can look to invade a buff and perhaps split the map, which could be a good choice here when top lane's kind of just going to be a neutral lane. We'll have to see in a moment what they're going to get up to, but here we have it. PSG up against DCG for game 2 of the day.
Battle at the top of the table, really. Looking to try and see which team remains supreme. If they've taken down the big win streaks of 5 games in a row, can they look to try and up that one more step? You mentioned before, Shock, that Waco's KDA is a little bit insane, a little bit crazy. Currently at 14.2.
Wow.
Only 5 deaths so far in how many games? 7, which just seems to be unheard of for AD carries.
It's actually kind of crazy this KDA is so high with 5 deaths, right? Like, it speaks to how many kills and assists he is getting. Yeah, I don't think... Have we seen him on the Varus before? I feel like we might not have. We've seen him play a lot of the carries, right? Like Azeri, often seen.
Yeah, no Varus so far. Really has been the classic staple of PCS, which is Lucian Zeri on repeat until it gets even nerfed by Riot, saying we've had enough of that, or teams saying, why can teams continue to play this? I mean, I think we saw in LCO, we saw a Tristana Rel into a Lucian army to try and be a lot more aggressive, to say that you're not allowed to play that way. I would love to see it shift to that degree, maybe not immediately, right, but certainly looking towards the tail end of the next round robin when teams start to figure out that, hey, if there's no more intervention with patch changes, if it's starting to stabilize going into MSI, let's have those little wildcards up our sleeve to try and win out a game in a best of 3.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my god, a nice 3-lane setup here. And bot lane already, low health bars, or half health bars, I suppose. And yeah, it looks like both jungler... Ooh, actually interesting. So on PSG's side, Maokai might actually look to 3-camp bot. Although it is warded out in the Krug. You can kind of see moving towards bot already. Perhaps just want to look to use your bot priority for an invade, which would be really good if you can kind of split the map around Wako and Woody here. Interesting choice to go for this. Yeah,
going to use that bot priority, as you say. It looks to be just invading for a bit of cheeky vision to keep tracking more so than anything as to where the jungler could be. Just allows Wako Woody to obviously continue to play so aggressively to say that, yes, you're playing a Caitlyn and a Lux, but it's not going to be anywhere near as easy as you'd like it to be.
Yeah, so Hana is spotted out very early. PSG, they have to know he's in the area. It does show on the ward now. And meanwhile... Ginger's looking actually back towards mid. Nesty could be in trouble here. There's a lot of gank set up from the side of PSG.
Oh, he's gone for the flash into the Twisted Advance. There's a knockback with the Bramble Smash and a root. You love to see it. That's what Arise can do. There's the kill setup. That's your mid jungle playing to a T.
Yeah, I think very hard gank to avoid here from Nesty. It's pretty much the strongest gank setup you can get this early in the game. And the fact that it's all point and click as well makes it so much better. So he goes down. And Ginger, he's the one that picks up the kill, and I think accelerating your Maokai early might actually be more impactful than accelerating the Rise, just because he ends up being such a teamfight terror with all those saplings.
I agree. Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen a fair few different variations as to what the Maokai can look like. Sometimes you go to the Radiant Virtue and you start to go, boo, it's a little bit boring. We love the Demonic Embrace. We like damage. We just saw triple flashes, but the fight still happened.
Yeah, and I think just so much distance covered by the Maokai W here, and just really good CC chain out of PSG. Managed to pick up the kill, and that's a pretty important one. I think, we need PSG to build up at least some sort of early game lead to feel good about this game. So, getting that started nice and early, love to see it.
I think more so than anything as well is the fact that you've targeted Nesty this early on, because from what I've seen with the creative champion, Paul, he's been a big driving force behind their success. So to put a Yoni behind this early on really puts the emphasis now onto Hana. What can he do to try and stabilize?
DCG, they have members around mid, and Ubao does not have flash, but he's playing pretty respectfully, and is also full health. Feels like anything short of a flash binding will probably not get him. And it looks like the lanes are kind of going to go back to normal. Both junglers are resetting at this point. See where they path outside of base, because Dragon is coming up in 10 seconds, but I feel like with these sort of compositions, just ensuring that your lanes are going well is more important than picking up Dragon super early in the game. It will instead be pathing to that top side. And bot lane, You know, Cascada, he's gone for the first item, Vamp Scepter, which does make dealing with the Varus Karma poke quite a lot more manageable.
Yeah, we've seen a lot more of this. Obviously, the Vamp Bloodthirster Rub actually got a bit of a buff in recent patch too, to try and make it a little bit more desirable. But it seems to be a nice rush if you're looking to try and out-sustain your opposition when it is all about poke. Don't need to necessarily rush yourself a Kraken or a Gale Force because you're not looking for that one shot. You're just looking to try and eke out an advantage in any way possible.
Yeah, I like it. I think that in a lot of these lanes, all you have to do really is not fall behind to be ahead. But Hana,
oh, there's the passive. Oh, the flash dash in. There's the stun. There's the knock-up. Your fate has been sealed. The slingshot away. Don't tell me he gets away the Realm Orb. Unbelievable. Ubao, look at his cam.
Yeah.
He's cracking up. He can't believe that's just worked.
Yeah, so the fact that Nesty... Oh, hold on that thought. We're having another gank bot lane. Orca is forced to flash. But yeah, Nesty died so early that he didn't have any items on his base, right? He didn't have any daggers or anything. And so ultimately, they just lacked the damage to take down Yubao. And that was pretty important because Hana, he invested the flash as well as Nesty investing the ult, and they don't manage to kill Yubao.
And that's the thing. I was saying literally moments ago that they need to try and target this mid lane to get Nesty back into this, and to have a fight happen like that, the opportunity cost has gone completely wrong. Great 90 Caterpillar net away. It's going to mean that Chinchilla is just a little bit too far exposed to the rest of his team to back him up, but he's just letting them know. He's keeping them humble.
Yeah. He is keeping them honest in this bot lane. A Dragon is up and available, but so far, both teams choosing to ignore it, just continuing to pressure the map. And we might see more action around mid. Both mid laners do not have flash, but actually PSG perhaps looking bot.
It's relentless.
Interesting. So DCG, they have no sums on an Orca. This is looking like a pretty good dive.
Chris Carter has everything, but so low. A flash and a cleanse would feel like a waste. Just dies to passive damage. And that's the best roam you'll see there from PSG. 4 members in the area, no response from DCG. And they pick up another 2 kills.
Yeah, really nice play from PSG there. That's kind of what we expect to see out of the Rise mid jungles, right? It gets permanent priority over mid and can roam around the map so easily. And then, yeah, just go down bot lane, pick up both of those kills. And that's very important, right? Caitlyn Lux, while they don't scale, actually they scale pretty well. If you fall behind, it can take a long time to be useful in the mid game. And here, with no sums on the Orca and Cascada already too low, and no one on DCG side able to match this, PSG, it's a pretty clean dive.
Really clean dive and great foresight, right? Because, they make the initial play in bot lane first of all. It feels like they're just feigning it, going back to clear the jungle once more. Nah, psych, we're coming back again. Wave is prepped, wave is crashing, and the kills are found. And no doubt Wako is feeling very happy about his position in this game. A kill, an assist, and a 10 CS advantage as well.
Yeah, now, Herald is available, and PSG, they invested a lot of tempo bot side. But it actually looks like they're kind of posturing to contest this. Yeah, PSG, they're actually going to go for it. Perhaps. I feel like you might want to give this one up. DCG have a great position, although Archer's about to have Mega. Yeah, so they wisely decide to give it up. I think that at this point, you've already gotten so much bot side, you don't need to risk it all to get a Herald that, might not even have a huge impact on the game. So good discipline from PSG. I'm glad they gave it up. It looked pretty scary, going into the kind of choke point up against the Sejuan. And yeah, both bot laners continuing to just CS. And I think that, we talked about the Vamp Scepter being useful for the lane. I think the problem is if you die on Vamp Scepter, you're stuck on it for a very long time, right? And you can feel very, very useless. And PSG perhaps looking for another dive bot.
Yeah, it just continues to happen time and time again. Double root, there's the snipe! Oh, Cascada nearly fell victim again. Really struggling under this lane, even if it was a 1v1, is being pushed back from afar with Wako. And as you say, completely stuck in Vamp Scepter jail.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. Vamp Scepter jail. And PSG, they have total control over this bot side. Revis should be able to pick up this Dragon. Actually managing to pick up a 2k gold lead here already, which is definitely pretty sizable for so early in the game. And PSG, they're showing why they're one of those top teams. One of the few teams so far that's really been able to execute, moving that mid jungle down to bot lane and not losing so much on the other side of the map that it becomes not worth it. The nice, consistent, clean play out of them. Actually, the Ghost Blade completed for Wako already. Very, very early. And have a look at Cascada's items on this Caitlyn.
No.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
It's not in days, isn't it? Pre-10 minutes, you got a fully completed item versus some tier 2 boots in a dream. It's a situation you're not going to be too happy with whatsoever. And I can imagine that Waka will be screaming for further attention, saying, next dragon, next fight, next moment. Let's just continue to punish them, because if a Caitlyn doesn't get ahead, the mid game's even worse. The end game never really arrives.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely the potential for PSG to just keep the pressure on. You know, stop DCG from really ever finding an in into this game. And that is kind of the risk you have when you play one of these comps, is that sure, it's, you know, very dominating if you get ahead and you have the tools to do so, but if you mis-execute, you know, have some random deaths here and there, it can suddenly become a very tall order to claw it back. Top lane has been relatively quiet, only a 2 CS difference, and I don't think anyone's been here at all. So I'm sure they're having fun.
They've been great to our observers. They're making sure that we're fully focused on the action down in the south part of the map, right? Rather than looking at those two beefcakes, just have a bit of a cheeky brawl now and then, just exchanging CS when they can, but it really has all been about the jungler influence. And I mean, what, second game now here for Jinxia, and just really showing up.
Yeah. A bot lane play is getting pretty low here, and so far they haven't found, DCG haven't found anywhere to really use this Herald. I think it probably will end up going bot, but it's not going to be very easy to crash. Perhaps Hana has to look to make some sort of pick before it.
Well, if it's not to be bot, I wouldn't be too surprised if they were to try and plant it in mid again. Double Summoner's up and available. Obviously, Yubao does have his, so it wouldn't be as easy as that. And maybe they're a little bit scarred by the failed gank earlier in the game to try and claw back some deficit. But it's only 2k, right? Not the end of the world. First Dragon did go the way of PSG, but it's just relentless pressure in this side of the map, and it just needs to be defended.
Yeah, PSG looks like they are going to try, maybe look for another redive. They're going for it again, but Hana is in the area.
Two-man route to start things off. Glacial Prison is the exchange. Chris Carter's just deleted off my screen. You don't even need to see that one. Final Spark goes out. Doesn't do enough. And Gia just says that's a scar, that's a scratch. Live another day.
Yeah, Kriskana kind of just gets sniped off on the side, and once again is going to be denied so much gold here. Yubao, really good use of the TP, just gets back to mid, doesn't end up losing a whole lot from this roam, so consistently, TCG, their bot lane is just getting punished, and there's no real trades on the other side of the map. It has to feel bad, and the Herald is actually dropped top, which I feel like doesn't really matter a whole lot. I guess it might give a little bit of gold to Hanabi, but feels like top lane in this game is kind of an afterthought, right? It's like been a lot more about this bot lane, and PSG, they're definitely ahead in that front.
Yeah, Hanabi will be hoping it can crash to get some kind of lead right into Nana. If he can then become a bit of a menace in the 1v1, at least then opens up a condition for them to try and play around, to try and break up this terrifying four-man roaming squad, which is just tearing apart anybody that stands in their way. But it's not ideal, to say the least, right? Would have loved to try and find a kill, try and find a moment, perhaps a defense, a counter engage when we see PSG continue to look towards bot lane, summon the Herald then and get some gold back that way, because what, only 50 seconds left before those plates are gone.
Yeah, not too long left here. And also a minute and 20 on this next dragon. PSG, if they pick that up, I actually feel like they're just going to be in complete control of this game. They're very systematically shutting down DCG's win conditions to the point where it kind of feels like DCG, obviously they're not miles behind yet, but they're gonna really struggle to win fights. And if your team fight comp can't win fights, what can you do?
Yeah, that's always the growing concern, right? You have a bit of an identity crisis as to what can we do on the fly, right? What can we sort of invent as a new strategy to try and claw our way back into this one before the gold just escapes you further and further. Once again, it is only 2.5k now. It's slowly and steadily building up, but it just feels like PSG have such a strong stranglehold on this game that you're not going to be too concerned by the state of affairs, right? You've got the scaling to look forward to in the mid lane. You've got the strength of Anar, no doubt, to come on through as long as he can hold his own up against this Jax too. And so your bot lane is super far accelerated.
Yeah, now only 20 seconds left on this Baron, but the Herald is spawning at the same time. PSG, it actually looks like they're just committing numbers to the Herald, so perhaps saying that, okay, we're ahead enough that we don't really need the drag in order to win this game, and perhaps with the Herald can snowball on more. DCG, will they look to trade bot lane? Perhaps they can't, and the only trade will end up being the drag.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, so I feel like PSG, given how far they are ahead, they can use this Herald to pretty great effect, whereas it feels like the drag, sure, it gives you some kind of very late win condition and kind of slows down PSG scaling a little. It's not really enough, I don't think.
I don't think they'll be too upset by the fact that a Drake gets taken away for free, right? You pick up the Herald, you just continue to further push your lead ahead. You're playing for the now as opposed to the then, the potential, the future. And that means that DSG had to try and make something happen. In they jump. How is he still alive? The Maokai lives, whereas Hana falls on down. And I've just seen another casualty in the mid lane where I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Hana just exploded. I kind of want to see that again. I'm surprised that he ended up just so squishy there. But does go down. And I think the Herald was dropped on that mid tower in the meantime. Let's take a look at the replay. I guess DCG were kind of fishing for some kind of play. They have Hana and Nessie on the side here. I'm not really sure what happened to Hana still, though. I feel like he just got rooted and... Yeah, I guess he just got chain CC'd and instantly died. And
wow.
Ginger was able to kind of buy enough time on that, you know, the back end of that fight. And the mid tower does go down. DCG, you know, in full control of this game, have given over a drag, but you're completely fine with that. Although it does ruin your perfect game.
It does ruin the perfect game, but I think ultimately they're not going to be too concerned when they look at a gold graph like that, which is just continuing to climb and climb and climb. They're going to be very happy with the outcome of this one, especially given that it's once again DCG forcing their hand, forcing the agenda. We need to do something. 2 major commits into the mid lane, doesn't find a kill again, and I feel like at this point mid lane is just a little bit of a cursed fighting spot.
Yeah, and take a look at the gold here. Wako is up 2,000 gold here over his direct opponent, which is pretty nice. And Nesty, kind of the one shining light, is up gold over Yubao, but given the impact that Yubao's had, you know, it's definitely worth it, right? You're very happy to be down 500 gold to just destroy bot lane like this. The DCG, I think they are kind of running out of options now. The BT is completed for Kriskata, but it's going to take a long time before he really starts to deal relevant damage, and I'm not sure they're going to get that time.
Yeah, 16 minutes, nearly 17. Bloodthirst to complete doesn't feel that good whatsoever, and you mean you're just lagging behind in power, to say the least. You saw it from the gold comparison. You're seeing it really in how they're teeing up for these fights as well. So you're going to, I don't know, try and reinvent the wheel in a way, right? Look to try and find success elsewhere. I wonder if it does mean that Hunter just forgives and forgets and looks to try and protect Hanabi instead. It seems to be that's what we're seeing at the moment.
And this tower is getting pressured, pretty big wave. DCG looks like they are going to be able to defend it. But you have to feel like it will go down and pretty inevitably, right? You can't hold on to it forever. They're continuing to kind of pressure this area. And Wako, he gets so much priority over the mid wave, given how strong he is, that, you know, he is always going to be able to move into this bot side first and slowly, you know, use that mid priority, just like they did in the early game, to extend their lead on the side lane. And that's exactly what they're doing. DCG are pushed away from that tier 1, and that is going to be picked up onto Yubao's Rise. And we've seen what happens when Yubao gets fed on Rise. Actually almost a 6,000 gold lead here. It's definitely starting to get out of control.
And it's just cool, calm, and confident, really. There's not really been a foot gone wrong so far, but here's another attempt onto Yubao. He's flashed away again, Shock. How many times can they escape death? It's criminal. Disengage away. The Nature's Grasp comes in. In jumps the Yone. He's tried to seal their fate, but ultimately his own fate has been sealed. He's dead. His team are dying. They're bleeding. Call an ambulance. And it has to be for them because they are running for their lives.
Yeah, wow. The health bars are so low. I think PSG, they might be able to clean up a few off the back end of this. I mean, that was so... Oh, actually snipes another one as well. That was so well played from PSG. I mean, yeah, that was really, really high-level team fighting, and you got to feel bad for DCG. They almost managed to pick up Yubao again, but he just keeps getting away with it.
Honestly, this guy is a cat. 9 lives. It just doesn't seem to end. Just so slippery. Always eluding moments and, in a way, becoming a bit of a jester, just taunting them, saying, come at me again, see what happens, because it didn't work for you the first time. It's certainly not going to work for you the 5th time in this game. And, yeah, perfect game or not, 7 kills to 0. That's perfect enough for me. 7 seems to be the magical number as they're up by 7k gold 2 now. Yeah,
and worth noting is that Wako is another monster performance, right? Currently sitting at 501 with his, what was it, existing 14 KDA or something. Yeah. So the man pretty consistently just carries games. And obviously he was the beneficiary of all of that pressure from his mid jungle, right? But you have to feel like it's well used if it ends up with this. So, yeah, DCG, I kind of admire the initial attempt. I feel like it was decent, but there's just not a whole lot of follow-up, not quite enough damage. And Yubao, actually really smart ult here. Managed to save Arjo on the back, we'll see it here. The right ult comes through, manages to save them, and then pay attention to Wako's arrow here. From over the wall, ends up dealing so much damage. They're all lined up like bowling pins. Yeah, they take so much damage. And off the back end, forcing out multiple flashes with every arrow. Kriskata, I think, kind of tried to do what he could, but ultimately just ended up putting himself in more trouble. And look at this quick scope at the back end.
Look at that max range, doesn't miss. Happy Cupcake, absolutely. I'd be happy with my my ability to land that one. You can see elation from the side of PSG Talon there as well. And I mean, at this point, Wako, we talk about his KDA being phenomenal. 5-0-1 in this game, really rocking the damage charts there as well. He's actually got a Prowler's Claw. Doesn't even want to go for the Eclipse. Doesn't matter. The opposition's too squishy.
Yeah, I think he knows that as long as he positions well, he's just not under any more threat and can continue to build just aggressively. Cascada is forced to flash, but will it actually be enough? I think it will.
Yeah, good body block there by support. Fate Seal once again jumps out. Orca, the first one to fall on down. That's all they want. It's just a quick hit and run.
Yeah, time and time again. They're getting in and getting out. And I think the Nesty's Yono just missed there. I'm not sure if it actually would have picked up the kill on a Ginger, but it would have been nice to at least trade something back. So far, it just feels like Deep Cross are consistently losing and never really getting anything back from it. And this Dragon will go over as well. Now almost a 7,000 gold lead here at PSG at only 21 minutes. So feeling very in control of this game.
Yeah, at this point it feels like a really hard way, or really hard ask more than anything, to try and find a way back in here for DCG as to where they turn their attention to next. You've got a Ryze that just refuses to die. 7 stacks now on that Rod of Ages. You've got a Varus, which is untouchable. Cleanse always available for them. You're clawing really at any kind of objective bounty, any kind of bounty as a whole that you can get to try and claw back at this gold lead, because before you know it, you'll blink, suddenly it's a 10k difference.
Yeah, and I want to say I feel a little bad for Hanabi, who's had the blind pick here and been, ended up in the counter matchup and just kind of had to sit there and watch his team lose. It's definitely the quintessential top lane experience.
Top laner's life, isn't it? Can be miserable at the best of times.
But he has been farming up well, so potentially has a window, right? With Sejuani and Jax, you've obviously got very strong skirmishing, but it feels kind of like too little too late. You're kind of worrying where normally Sedge, I feel like, does pretty well into Varus because you just end up unkillable, right? But if you fall behind, you can see Hana right now doesn't have a whole lot of armor. It's pretty much just pure health. Yeah. And Wako is so fed that he's just going to have no trouble dealing with that at all.
Yeah, far too much lethality. Boots of swiftness as well, right? Look to look to elude as many of those movement slowing abilities as possible, and just continue to be a menace, right? Rain fire from afar in the mid lane. Cascada, yes, you got the Bloodthirster. Yes, you can try and weather the storm with that massive shield, but you're not answering back. You're never winning a trade. Yeah,
I think I agree. And Cascada, I mean, he's got to finish up his Mythic and then get an IE before he can really end up doing damage. And I think by that point, PSG probably will have killed the Nexus twice, so doesn't feel like you have the time to do that now. The next Dragon won't be for 3 more minutes. PSG, though, are trying to control this Baron vision. Trying to move up a bit further. Actually looking on a Hanabi.
Yep, seems to be the focus. Receives a little bit of attention for the first time in this game, 23 minutes in, but thankfully, Jax can just leap away to safety.
Yeah, Hana, he's looking for something.
Was toying at the idea of potentially going in. Nature's Grasp locks in place. Just one. It's going to be Hana, the sacrificial lamb, running as he hits the smite to try and run away. Deary me, he got low. All that HP, no armor, but it was enough to keep him alive.
He does have the Warmark, so can just go back to full. Isn't forced into resetting, which is actually pretty important. Because, yeah, as you can see, Orca at the back end actually Lux ulted the Baron just to check, are they actually on this or not? I think if Hana hadn't had the Warmogs, PSG might have been able to do it. But so far, playing it nice and collected. I like what PSG's doing. They're kind of playing aggressive. They're pushing their leads, but they're not pushing it so hard that there's the potential for comebacks, right? They're just kind of cleanly closing it out. They've knocked down all the tier 1s. They're just slowly stacking up dragons. They take picks when they see them. They don't feel like they need to force anything more than that.
It feels to me like methodical gaming, right? Very systematic. We take a tower here, we take a fight there. We welcome the attention of our opposition, feeling desperate that they need to do something to get back into the game. But, they're certainly being aggressive themselves, certainly looking to stamp their authority on this game, but they're never overextending themselves, never really, as you say, allowing their opposition to say, oh, that's a bit of a mistake. Why is this person greeted the fact they're up by this much gold? So a really strong, I want to say, statement game here from PSG to assert themselves as one of the best in the region.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Only a minute 30 on this next drag. Will PSG just look to start, moving this vision further, or will they move it to bot side? It's kind of interesting because a lot of the time you can actually get the dragon without having to swap your vision over. You can just keep it all around the Baron, just with, especially how far ahead your bot lane are. So I think PSG you can just keep mega priority on that mid wave and then look to just kind of get everything with it, right? Like when you have mid priority, it opens up the game so much. And actually just using the Maokai ult to zone off the tower.
Yeah, just another free turret. Oh no, Hana! He's ulted a minion, and I think that really rings true to how they feel about this game. Wako is dominating. He has been all game, and that may now be the freest Baron you'll ever see.
Yeah, Han, I think, really felt desperate there. I'm not sure if he was trying to ult for wave clear, but I sure hope he wasn't. I honestly think even if the ult connected, with the Maokai ult zoning DCG off the tower, I don't think there was any follow-up. It's a really interesting by Han, and I think DCG, they're going to try and contest this 4v5, but I don't think there's a way they can win this fight.
What do they do? I'm looking at Nesty. Failed Seal jumps in. Secured there by Chinchilla. Out they go. Varus surviving. Wako doesn't want to lose that perfect KDA. Nesty cutting away. Hanabi leaping to safety. Kriskada burning a flash. But the pain train of PSG is relentless. In they go. Uba on your head. That's a kill for him. That's another for the Maokai. And that is them saying, this is our Baron. Why on earth did you decide to contest?
Yeah, I mean, that just really... if the play Hana made wasn't desperate enough, the follow-up play from DCG to actually contest the Baron screams desperation to me. They really feel like they don't have a way into this game and they have to contest something. And now they're going to be down pretty much a full 10,000 gold here. Let's take a look at the replay. I mean, they try and contest 4v5, but Orca starts it on 1 HP. The Yonol doesn't even connect.
So close.
Yeah, and it feels like from that point on, the fight is just doomed. It's really how many members can you get out? And unfortunately, Kriskada also uses the flash just to die anyway, which, yeah, it's going to make the next fight even more difficult for him. And PSG, you can see the damage dealt in that fight. Yubao's Rise really doing the numbers.
I think it leads back to your point from last game, right? If it's a Rise that's having to kite away, very different story, right? Gets outranged, can't really utilize how strong he is at that 2-3 out on power spike, but when it's the Rise pushing forward themselves, saying, we're setting the terms and conditions here, he's flashing into their face saying, you can't deal with me. Now doing it again. Realm Whip underneath your turret. Where do you go? Oh my god, Kriskada exploded. That's a late TP. Nesty's out the fight. A sapling to their head, and that's more than a headache. That is another death. Double kill now here for Ubao, who's just far too strong in this game. He doesn't die, but he does the death.
Yeah, and I think PSG really saying just that, you know, Deep Grass Gaming do not belong in the same class as they do, right? PSG clearly looking, you know, top 2, perhaps even the best team in the league right now. And perhaps they will actually look to end the game here. Only 27 minutes in, but they have the Baron. There's 2 carries dead.
Let's see what they can do with this one. One inhibitor turret, or rather, one Nexus turret falls on down. Orca living by a sliver of his teeth. In jumps Hanabi, tries to be the hero, goes golden, takes one. Ruins the perfect KD of Wako. That's a mental victory. You've won on that front. You've said, hey, used to play for your team. I've got one back on you. And maybe that's just enough here, Shock, to delay the game from ending anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think Wako actually cleansed a little too early there. Perhaps was expecting the Jax Flash to come in just a bit sooner. So ultimately, DCG, they do kind of delay it, but you have to feel like it is just delaying the inevitable at this point. I really don't see them coming back from such a huge gold deficit. Worth noting though, Hanabi, you know, he is the one that picked up the kill and is going to look to invest that gold into a Zhonya's, actually. Which we've seen a few times here from the Jaxes and PCS. Now, I think only one inhib went down, but it was the bot lane inhib, which makes obviously contesting the next Baron quite a bit more difficult. You're going to have to clear out those bot waves before you can do anything about that. And yeah, mid and top here, just being... they're going to be slowly sieged down. We don't have anything left on the Baron, but it is an open mid lane inhib. Will PSG... I think PSG can honestly just keep going. They don't even need to wait for Baron here. So far ahead and with so much engaged, they have to feel like they can force the issue.
Yeah, it would seem curious to me if they were to wait it out for the double spawning in the next 2.5 minutes. I feel like they have enough control in this game, enough strength more than anything to say we can press forward with a 12k lead. You're not allowed to go into your jungle. If you place a wall down, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, and PSG, they're starting to pressure this tower. They've got so much poke and so much engage, pretty much everything you need in order to pick these up. But it looks like DCG, with their wave clear, are at least going to be able to stop it for now. For how long, though? Because Aja is pushing in that mid wave. Someone is going to have to go answer that. And when that happens, this top tower is going to feel pressured. Actually, no one's answering the mid wave at all. So it is just going to slowly end up dying.
Yeah, and bot lane's also passively pushing because of supers, right? So you're playing a delicate game as to how long do you hang around topside. You get wiped here, the game is over. Nature's Grass locks everybody in place. Oh my god, Chunchi's got on the biggest journey of his life. He's been sucked right into 5. Thankfully for him, had flash up and available, can just run away, whilst these two had a bit of a crack at it in the jungle. And, well, I don't know if either side is actually quite happy with how that one's worked out, but for DCG, at least they can go back to base to clear.
Yeah, DCG, they do manage to clear stuff out, but the punishment is that you're going to lose this top tower that you were you're desperately defending. And I think every tower that goes down here just makes coming back even more unlikely, especially given how much control PSG have of this topside jungle. And especially, again, with a Maokai, it's very hard to walk in, right? Every bush you check is going to have a sapling in it. You're going to take so much damage just getting to Baron. Even when you get there, you're not sure if you can actually contest it. Now, Chris Carter is building towards the IE. If he can get it before the game ends, potentially can do something, but it just feels like you're way too behind to get there in time.
Yeah, such a sizable gold investment to try and hit that point. And whilst you can make the suggestion that, you know, with 9 turrets down to 1, they can look to try and turtle inside their base and try and feed it to them. If you're inside your base doing that, it's a free Baron, right? So it's a double-edged sword in that regard as to where do you go and what happens. But hasn't been the game for them to feel too powerful about. They wanted to be aggressive, but unfortunately, PSG were just a little bit too aggressive for their own likings.
And now 30 seconds on the drag here for PSG. Actually, you can see Hana on the map has got the widest flank of all time, perhaps just waiting here to steal the Baron away or just to get a good flank. I kind of like it, but I feel like it's probably not going to be enough. Will he be spotted out, though?
He's playing patiently, isn't he? They smell that something must be wrong. Where could it be? Calling out some vision. This would seem crazy if you did it all just for a Dragon Soul.
If he can steal away the Dragon, I mean, it does delay the game a little bit more. Actually, okay, he's looking for the engage.
He's on. Glacial Prison finds what they're after. They take out Chunchia. He's living for the meantime, though. Oh, my God. Nesty zaps back, and finally the snapshot does the damage it needs. Shutdown is what they'll find. Flashing forward, trying to find more. Look at to press their gold advantage, and that's exactly what they're doing. Shock, they're slapping them with their wallets. The damage is crazy, but DCG are answering back, but getting picked apart one by one. DCG are not on the same page, and then cut off from any kind of retreat as the Rise jumps into the back.
Yeah, and I think Ubao will TP back, and they're probably going to play for the end. I also think DCG, that was like one of the best fights they could have gotten, but still did not manage to win it.
Just 32 minutes too late, unfortunately.
Yeah, 32 minutes too late and down now 11,000 gold. And PSG, only 3 members here, but it's a 3v2 and I think they can end.
Oh! Hunter's in, flash on his head, hits the passive. He's trying to solo out Wako, but he's thinking, I'm a lethality Varus, I will destroy you. His teammate's dead to his side, and he'll find himself in a very similar fate, and I think it's fitting. The emote says game over. We know it's game over. PSG have had enough fun at the 33-minute mark.
Yeah, and PSG really asserting their dominance that game, showing that they are one of those top teams, and DCG perhaps just isn't quite there. We have seen DCG kind of had, mixed performances up against the top teams, but I don't think we've seen one as dominating as this, where PSG just from start to finish dominates the game. And also, one thing I think that really shows from these top tier teams is they know how to keep the game snowballing when objectives are down, right? I feel like a lot of the kind of mid-tier teams end up just, in that period between Dragon, being down and Herald being down, they just kind of end up farming and not really doing a whole lot, right? But it felt like PSG, they always found windows to at least be, slowly pushing down a tower, right? Or taking away jungle camps or looking for those dives block. So, yeah, really big ups to PSG. I think they've shown probably the best mid-jungle synergy in that game that I've seen from pretty much anyone in the split. Not one, but 2 roams down the bot. They both worked out very successfully.
Absolutely, and I think the biggest thing I took away from that is having seen similar situations happen back home in the LCR as well. If you do have a team that is looking to try and invest so much pressure with 4 members relentlessly targeting that bot lane, you need those TPs from your top lane and from your mid lane on point, straight away answering back. Because if that first kill doesn't happen, suddenly it's a very different story. That Caitlyn may not be stuck in Vampiric Scepter Hell, may actually be a bit of a factor, and the Varus isn't allowed to have a 5-0 scoreline and feel like the game is ever too easy. Yeah, and I feel like that builds up even from that very early gank, right? Like the Yone was forced to both flash, die, and then have to TP back to lane, right? So losing the